First Contact's Price. The Varaxian High Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Zextal's hologram flickered to life. His crystalline exoskeleton, normally pristine and intimidating, showed signs of battle damage, an unprecedented sight that sent whispers through the assembled council members. Esteemed council, Zextal's voice resonated through the chamber. I come before you with news that will reshape our understanding of the galaxy. We have encountered a species designated as humans, and I must report that our initial assessment was catastrophically flawed. The Admiral's words hung heavy in the air. The Varaxians had ruled their portion of the galaxy for millennia, their crystalline ships a symbol of technological superiority and unwavering might. Their doctrine was simple: observe, assess, and if deemed necessary, absorb or eliminate. It had never failed. Until now. 3 stellar cycles ago, our deep space sensors detected unusual radiation signatures from what we thought was an uninhabited sector. Upon investigation, we found a species that had achieved spaceflight through means we barely comprehend. Their ships, crude by our standards, utilize chemical propulsion and primitive nuclear drives, yet they've established colonies across their local star systems. Zextal's hologram shifted, displaying footage of human vessels. They were angular, utilitarian, and completely unlike the elegant crystalline designs of Varaxian ships. Following standard protocol, we attempted to collect specimens from their outer colonies for study. That's when everything changed. The council chamber's lighting dimmed as new footage played. A small human vessel, cornered by a Varaxian cruiser, suddenly accelerated to suicide speeds. The council members watched in shocked silence as the human ship, rather than surrendering, rammed itself into the cruiser's crystal lattice structure. The impact shouldn't have caused significant damage, but the humans had learned something about Varaxian technology that no other species had discovered: the resonant frequency of their crystal hulls. The humans, Zextal continued, had packed their ship with precisely calibrated explosive devices. The combination of the impact and the explosions created a harmonic wave that shattered our vessel's crystal matrix. One primitive ship, at the cost of its crew, destroyed a capital ship that had survived centuries of warfare. The council matriarch's voice cut through the silence. How did they acquire this knowledge so quickly? That's what makes them dangerous, matriarch. They learn. Not gradually, like other species we've encountered, but at an exponential rate. Every engagement teaches them something new, and they adapt their tactics faster than we can update our battle protocols. They've turned their civilian mining ships into weapons by fitting them with drills that can pierce our hulls. Their atmospheric entry vehicles have been modified into boarding craft that can withstand our point defense systems. Zextal's hologram showed more footage. Human ships working in coordination, using tactics that seem to defy conventional space combat doctrine. They don't fight like any species we've encountered. When we destroy their ships, they don't retreat. They analyze the debris field to understand how our weapons work. When we jam their communications, they switch to primitive radio signals or even light-based Morse code. Every defeat teaches them something new about us, while our victories teach us nothing about them. Surely their resources must be limited, another council member interjected. Their technology is inferior. They cannot hope to match our production capacity. That's another misconception we can no longer afford, Zextal replied. Their industrial base is decentralized. When we destroy one shipyard, 3 more appear in hidden locations. They've begun adapting our captured technology, but not by simply copying it. They're improving upon it in ways we never considered. They think differently. The Admiral's hologram flickered as he straightened his posture. I come before you today not just to report our failures, but to recommend a fundamental change in our approach. The humans are not like the other species we've subjugated. They don't fight for resources or territory. They fight for survival, and they fight together. Every human vessel, from their smallest scout to their largest carrier, operates with the same unwavering determination. They're not afraid of death. They're afraid of submission. The council chamber erupted in debate, but Zextal wasn't finished. We assumed their technological inferiority made them primitive. We were wrong. Their technology took a different path than ours. But their minds are anything but primitive. They see possibilities where we see limitations. They turn their weaknesses into strengths. And most importantly, they learn from every mistake, both theirs and ours. As the council absorbed this unprecedented assessment, Zextal delivered his final warning. We must adapt our entire strategy, or we will face something we haven't encountered in 10,000 years: defeat. The humans have shown us that surrender wasn't in their vocabulary. Perhaps it's time we learned some new words of our own. The response. Science Officer Kiravan stared at the data streaming across her crystalline display, her natural bioluminescence dimming in disbelief. Admiral, you need to see this. Admiral Zextal moved across the command deck of the Varaxian flagship, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light from nearby displays. The data showed thermal readings from a human industrial center they'd been monitoring. What had once been a civilian manufacturing facility had transformed in mere days. They're converting everything, Kiravan explained. Manufacturing plants, entertainment centers, even their food production facilities, all being repurposed for war effort. The efficiency is unprecedented. Show me the orbital analysis, Zextal commanded. The display shifted to reveal Earth's orbital space, now bustling with activity. Civilian space stations were being reinforced with makeshift armor. Mining vessels, their frames still bearing corporate logos, now bristled with hastily mounted weaponry. They're not building dedicated warships, Kiravan observed. They're adapting what they already have. It's crude, but effective, Zextal finished. And fast. How long since our first engagement? 42 standard cycles. Not even half a stellar revolution. The Admiral's crystalline fingers traced the trajectory of a converted human cargo vessel. Look at the heat signatures. They're pushing their engines beyond safe limits, but they've reinforced the hulls with, is that mining blast shielding? Yes, Admiral. They're repurposing industrial heat shields to protect against our energy weapons. The efficiency loss is substantial, but a new alert flashed across their screens. In the outer reaches of the solar system, a fleet of human ships had appeared where there should have been nothing. They weren't using conventional drives. Instead, they seemed to be riding the solar wind itself, using massive solar sails to move silently through space. Clever, Zextal muttered. No engine signatures to detect. And look, they're using the solar radiation pressure not just for propulsion, but to power their systems. We've been scanning for nuclear and antimatter signatures, while they've been harnessing their star itself. The human fleet's formation was unlike anything in the Varaxian tactical database. Instead of the rigid, geometric patterns that had defined space combat for millennia, they moved like schools of Earth's ocean creatures, their formations fluid and unpredictable. Admiral, a tactical officer called out, we're detecting unusual communications from the human vessels. They're not using standard frequencies or encryption. Zextal moved to the tactical station. Analysis. It appears to be sound waves, sir, transmitted through tight beam radio. They're using something called music to coordinate their movements. Each ship's position corresponds to a different harmonic frequency. We can detect it, but our systems can't predict their maneuvers because the patterns keep changing. The Admiral's expression hardened. He had seen enough battles to recognize innovation when he saw it. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were rewriting the rules of space warfare with each passing day. A new alert drew their attention. The human ships had begun launching small, fast-moving objects. Not missiles or fighters, but probes. Kiravan questioned. Thousands of them. No, millions. They're releasing some kind of autonomous network. The space around Earth was becoming a web of small, interconnected devices. Each one seemed insignificant, but together They formed a vast network that began mapping Varaxian ship movements with unprecedented precision. They're using their civilian satellite technology, Zextol realized. These are modified communication relays. They're creating a battlefield awareness system that our stealth technology can't evade. The tactical display suddenly shifted, showing new human vessels emerging from hidden positions throughout their system. They had been there all along, waiting, their presence masked by the natural electromagnetic interference of their star and planets. "Sir," Caravan's voice was tight with concern, "I'm detecting changes in their orbital defense platforms. They're not just mounting weapons, they're converting their entire orbital infrastructure into a defensive grid. Those civilian space stations, they're becoming anchor points for some kind of energy web." Zextol watched as human ships began linking their power systems together, creating improvised energy networks that could redistribute shield power and weapons energy across multiple vessels. It was inefficient and dangerous, but it meant that disabling one ship no longer guaranteed its destruction. "They're not trying to match our technology," he said finally. "They're building something entirely new. Something we've never seen before, because we never had to think this way." He turned to his communications officer. "Send word to the High Council. The humans aren't just resisting. They're innovating, and they're doing it faster than we can adapt our own strategies." As if to emphasize his point, the human fleet began its approach. Their formation was chaos to Varaxian eyes, but there was a pattern there. A complex dance of ships and energy and information that defied conventional military doctrine. "Your orders, Admiral?" Caravan asked. Zextol watched the approaching fleet, his tactical mind racing to understand this new form of warfare. "We've been fighting wars of attrition for so long, we've forgotten what it means to face an enemy that thinks differently. The humans, they're not trying to win by our rules. They're creating their own." The first salvos from the human fleet weren't weapons fire but massive electromagnetic pulses, precisely calibrated to interfere with Varaxian crystal technology. They had learned, adapted, and turned their understanding into action. "Signal the fleet," Zextol commanded. "Full combat alert. And prepare for something new. Whatever we think they're going to do, they'll probably surprise us anyway." Breaking point. The Varaxian war room was in chaos. Holographic displays showed dozens of battles unfolding simultaneously across multiple star systems, and in almost every theater, the impossible was happening. The mighty Varaxian fleet was being pushed back. Fleet Commander Vexnor slammed his crystalline fist into the tactical display, causing the hologram to flicker. How? How are they doing this with inferior technology? A series of new alerts flashed across the main display. In the Proxima system, human forces had just sprung another trap. They had filled an entire asteroid field with what appeared to be mining charges, simple fusion devices normally used to break up space rocks for resource extraction. But they had modified them, turning the entire field into a massive fragmentation weapon. Tactical analysis of the Proxima engagement, a young analyst reported, her voice trembling. "The humans used our own pursuit algorithms against us. They knew exactly how our ships would navigate through the asteroid field because they've studied our standard evasion patterns. When our fleet followed their retreating forces, they detonated the charges," Vexnor finished, "creating a chain reaction that turned the entire asteroid field into a weapon. How many ships did we lose? 3 battlecruisers, 7 escort vessels," and the analyst hesitated. "The flagship Eternal Crystal." The room fell silent. The Eternal Crystal had been undefeated for over 300 years. Now it was gone, destroyed by modified mining charges and human cunning. "Show me the Sol system defense grid," Vexnor commanded. The display shifted to Earth's home system, where the humans had constructed something that defied conventional military doctrine. They had created a vast network of interconnected civilian ships, stations, and defensive platforms. Each component was vulnerable on its own, but together they formed a resilient, adaptive defense system. "New contact," another officer called out. human fleet emerging from the dark side of their moon. Energy signatures are unusual. The tactical display showed a formation of human vessels, but they were different from anything seen before. They had stripped down their ships to the bare minimum, removing everything except engines, weapons, and essential life support. But they had added something new, massive arrays of mirrors and lenses. What are they? Vexnor's question was cut short as the human fleet executed their attack. They had positioned themselves perfectly, using their star's own energy as a weapon. The arrays of mirrors and lenses focused and amplified solar radiation, creating beams of concentrated energy that overwhelmed Varaxian shields. "They're using their star against us," the tactical officer reported in disbelief. "Those aren't weapons platforms. They're solar concentrators. Our shields are calibrated for particle beams and plasma weapons, not focused stellar radiation." Another alert sounded. In the Centauri sector, human forces had deployed a new kind of electronic warfare. They had studied the crystalline computing systems that formed the backbone of Varaxian technology and found a fundamental weakness. By broadcasting specific frequencies of electromagnetic radiation, they could induce resonance patterns in the crystal matrices, disrupting ship systems without firing a shot. "Report from the research division," an officer announced. "Human communication intercepts suggest they're calling this conflict the Glass War. They've begun referring to our ships as crystal castles and have developed specific tactics for each class of vessel." Vexnor watched as another Varaxian battle group fell into a human trap. This time, they had used simple water ice, broken up into clouds of microscopic particles. The ice didn't damage Varaxian ships directly, but when it melted against their hull, the thermal shock created microscopic fractures in their crystal structure. Over time, these fractures would grow, compromising the entire ship. "They're not just adapting their technology," Vexnor realized. "They're adapting their entire way of thinking. Look at their fleet movements. No central command structure, no rigid hierarchy. Each battle group operates independently, but coordinates perfectly with the others." The tactical display updated again, showing new human vessels entering the fight. These ships were different. They appeared to be covered in some kind of adaptive camouflage that mimicked the crystal structure of Varaxian vessels. "Infiltrator units," the tactical officer explained. "They found a way to manipulate their hull materials to reflect energy signatures similar to our own ships. In the chaos of battle, our automated targeting systems can't distinguish them from friendly vessels until it's too late." A senior strategist stepped forward, his crystalline form showing signs of stress fractures, a physical manifestation of the mental strain they were all under. "Commander, we need to consider the possibility that this war is no longer winnable through conventional means. The humans, they're not just fighting us. They're learning from us, adapting to us, and creating new ways of warfare that our doctrine cannot counter." As if to emphasize his point, another alert sounded. Human forces had begun deploying what they called viral ships, vessels deliberately designed to be captured. Once brought aboard Varaxian carriers for analysis, these ships would initiate self-destruct sequences that specifically targeted crystal-based technology. "They're turning everything into a weapon," Vexnor observed, "not through superior technology, but through superior imagination. Every defeat teaches them. Every victory costs us more than we can afford to lose. And they're not just defeating our ships, they're defeating our assumptions about how war should be fought." The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. The Varaxian Empire, undefeated for millennia, was facing an enemy that refused to fight by the established rules of warfare. Instead, humans were writing their own rules, turning their technological disadvantages into tactical advantages, and proving that innovation could overcome even the most advanced technology. "Send word to the High Council," Vexnor commanded. "The humans aren't just breaking our defenses, they're breaking every rule we thought defined modern warfare. And they're doing it with technology we would have dismissed as primitive just a few cycles ago." The breaking point had arrived. but not in the way anyone had expected. It wasn't Varaxian ships that were breaking. It was their entire understanding of what was possible in warfare. The Innovation War. In the secure depths of Earth's Combined Innovation Center, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a captured Varaxian crystal matrix, watching as it pulsed with an inner light that shouldn't have been possible. Around her, a team of international scientists worked at stations filled with hybrid technology, a merger of human ingenuity and alien crystalline engineering. "Show me the latest test results," she called out to her team. The holographic display flickered to life, but instead of using Varaxian crystal tech, it emerged from a network of modified smartphone screens arranged in a geodesic sphere. They had discovered that consumer-grade LCD displays, when properly networked, could replicate Varaxian holographic technology at a fraction of the energy cost. "The crystal integration is at 89% efficiency," reported Dr. Patel, her colleague. "We're not just copying their technology anymore. We're improving it. Look at this." He gestured to a nearby workbench where a small crystal, no larger than a coffee cup, powered an entire array of human devices. They had discovered that Varaxian crystals, when exposed to specific frequencies of human music, could amplify their energy output by orders of magnitude. "Mozart makes them more efficient than their own power systems ever did," Dr. Patel grinned. "Who would have thought that Earth classical music would be the key to unlocking alien technology?" An alert sounded through the facility. On the main screen, footage from the front lines showed the latest engagement, a fleet of new hybrid vessels, human designs incorporating modified Varaxian crystal tech, emerged from hyperspace. But unlike the pure crystal ships of their adversaries, these vessels pulsed with a rainbow of colors, each hue representing a different frequency of operation. "The Rainbow Fleet is engaging," announced military liaison Colonel Torres. "Let's see if the crystalline frequency modulation works in actual combat." They watched as the human ships began their attack. Instead of trying to overpower Varaxian shields, they transmitted complex musical harmonies, a mixture of whale songs and classical symphonies, directly into the enemy's crystal matrices. The Varaxian ships' own structures began to resonate, turning them into massive receivers that amplify the transmissions. "It's working," Dr. Chen breathed. "Their ships are literally dancing to our tune." The Varaxian vessels, their systems overwhelmed by the unexpected input, began to move erratically. Their crystal-based AI systems, designed to process pure logic and mathematical patterns, were being flooded with human artistic expression. It wasn't destroying them, it was confusing them, introducing concepts their rigid programming couldn't process. "We're not just fighting their technology," Colonel Torres observed. "We're challenging their entire way of thinking. Look at this." He brought up another display showing the latest breakthrough. Human scientists had discovered that Varaxian crystals, when exposed to human emotions through modified EEG interfaces, could form new types of computational matrices. They were teaching the alien technology to think more like humans, adaptively, creatively, and sometimes irrationally. "The latest field reports are in," another scientist announced. "The hybrid ships are outperforming pure Varaxian vessels by 300%. Our imperfect integration of their technology is actually more effective than their perfect systems." Dr. Chen moved to a sealed chamber where their most ambitious project was underway. Inside, a massive crystal structure grew in patterns that would have been impossible under Varaxian engineering principles. They had introduced controlled imperfections into the crystal matrix, creating what they called quantum uncertainty nodes. "Traditional Varaxian crystals are too perfect," she explained to a group of visiting officials. "Their atomic structure is so precise that it can only process information in predictable ways. By introducing controlled chaos, imperfections in the crystal structure, we've created quantum computational possibilities they never imagined." The evidence of their success was displayed across multiple screens. Human ships, utilizing these imperfect crystals, could now process information in ways that seemed magical even by Varaxian standards. They could predict enemy movements not through pure calculation, but through a hybrid of computation and intuition. Look at these energy readings. Dr. Patel pointed to a new dataset. When we play jazz through the crystal matrices, they achieve energy states that should be theoretically impossible. It's like the crystals are learning to improvise. In orbit, the Rainbow Fleet continued its advance. Each ship now carried a hybrid crew, human operators working alongside reprogrammed Varaxian crystal AIs. The AIs had been modified with what the development team called human uncertainty principles, the ability to make intuitive leaps beyond pure logic. New contact. Colonel Torres called out. Varaxian heavy fleet approaching through hyperspace. They're using their traditional crystal configuration. The room washed as the two fleets engage. The Varaxian ships, perfect and precise, moved in formations that had been optimized over millennia of warfare. But the human hybrid vessels moved like dancers, their crystals pulsing with music and emotion, their actions guided by both calculation and intuition. They still don't understand, Dr. Chen said softly. They see our modification of their technology as corruption, as imperfection. They don't realize that imperfection is our strength, the ability to imagine possibilities beyond pure logic. That's what makes us human. The battle unfolded like a symphony. Human ships, their crystal matrices resonating with Earth music and emotion, moved in patterns that no algorithm could predict. They weren't just fighting with advanced technology. They were fighting with art, with music, with the full spectrum of human expression. Final analysis coming in, Dr. Patil announced. The hybrid ships are now operating at 400% efficiency compared to pure Varaxian designs. We're not just matching their technology anymore. We're revolutionizing it. Dr. Chen smiled as she watched the display. The innovation war wasn't being won through superior firepower or advanced technology. It was being won through humanity's greatest strength, the ability to imagine something new, to take the perfect and make it better by making it imperfect, to infuse cold logic with warm humanity. Send word to command, she instructed. Project Rainbow Symphony is fully operational. We're ready to begin full-scale production of hybrid vessels. And tell them, she paused, watching as another Varaxian fleet fell to the symphonic assault of human innovation. Tell them that we've learned how to make their perfect crystals sting. Victory through understanding. The grand chamber of the Varaxian High Council had changed. Where once pure crystal formations had created perfect geometric patterns, now swirls of color danced through the structures, pulsing in harmony with both human music and Varaxian resonance patterns. It was a fitting backdrop for what many were calling the most important meeting in galactic history. High Counselor Zextal, his crystalline form now incorporating streaks of iridescent color, stood before the combined delegation of humans and Varaxians. The chamber was filled with an unprecedented mix of beings. Human scientists in their practical uniforms standing alongside Varaxian nobles whose crystal formations now displayed hints of artistic expression. A cycle ago, Zextal began, we would have considered this gathering impossible. We saw perfection as the absence of variation. We saw strength as the elimination of weakness. We were wrong. The holographic displays around the chamber activated, showing scenes from across both human and Varaxian space. Crystal cities now pulse with color and life, their once rigid structures flowing with new patterns inspired by human art and music. Human settlements gleamed with integrated crystal technology, but not in the pure, perfect forms the Varaxians had once insisted upon. Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as Earth's Chief Innovation Ambassador, stepped forward. We didn't win this war through superior firepower, she said, her voice carrying through the chamber. We won it by refusing to accept that technology and nature must be in conflict. We won it by showing that imperfection can be a strength. The display shifted to show the new hybrid ships that now patrolled joint space. Their crystals pulsed with colors that would have been considered flaws in the old Varaxian Empire, but now represented the harmony of two civilizations learning from each other. Our greatest discovery, Dr. Chin continued, wasn't how to defeat Viraxian technology. It was learning how to help it grow beyond its original limitations by introducing human creativity. Our music, our art, our emotions. We didn't corrupt the crystals. We awakened them. A demonstration appeared in the center of the chamber. A small crystal, similar to those that had once powered Viraxian warships, floated in space. But as a child's laughter echoed through the chamber, the crystal began to pulse with warm colors, its energy output exceeding anything the pure logic of Viraxian engineering had achieved. We discovered that the crystals weren't just computational matrices, explained Dr. Patel, who had joined the delegation. They were capable of responding to the full spectrum of consciousness. They needed creativity, emotion, and even uncertainty to reach their full potential. The Viraxian science director, her form now incorporating deliberate asymmetries that would have been unthinkable a cycle ago, activated another display. It showed the new learning centers where young Viraxians were being taught not just the principles of crystal engineering, but also human arts, music, and philosophy. Our children, she said, her voice carrying the harmonic overtones that had become common among Viraxians exposed to human culture, are learning to see beauty in imperfection. They create crystals that don't just compute, they sing. They don't just process, they feel. The chamber's displays shifted again, showing the transformation of both civilizations. Human cities now incorporated living crystal structures that responded to the emotions and needs of their inhabitants. Viraxian ships moved with a grace that came from understanding that efficiency wasn't just about perfect calculations. But perhaps our greatest achievement, Sextil continued, isn't technological at all. It's understanding that true advancement comes not from conquering or absorbing other civilizations, but from learning from them. The humans didn't just defeat us, they showed us a better way to exist. The final displays showed the new joint academies where humans and Viraxians worked together, combining the logical precision of crystal technology with the creative chaos of human innovation. Young scientists from both species collaborated on projects that would have been impossible for either civilization alone. Dr. Chen approached one of the crystal walls, placing her hand against its surface. The crystal responded to her touch, creating ripples of color that spread throughout the chamber. "This is what victory really looks like," she said, "not the defeat of an enemy, but the birth of something new, something better than either of us could have created alone." The chamber filled with a harmony of human music and Viraxian crystal resonance, a symphony of two civilizations that had learned to grow together. The war that had begun with a dismissal of human potential had ended with a transformation of both species. "We stand here today," Sextil concluded, "not as conquerors and conquered, but as partners in discovery. The humans taught us that perfection isn't about eliminating flaws. It's about embracing the possibilities that come from being imperfect together." As the chamber filled with the combined applause of human hands and the crystalline chimes of Viraxian appreciation, the displays showed one final image. A new ship, its design a perfect blend of human intuition and Viraxian precision, preparing for its maiden voyage. Its crystal heart pulsed with colors that represented not just power, but possibility. The ship's name, displayed in both human letters and Viraxian crystal patterns, seemed to capture everything that had brought them to this moment. Harmony's dawn. Victory, they had all learned, wasn't about defeating an enemy. It was about transcending the limitations that made them enemies in the first place. And in doing so, both humanity and the Viraxians had discovered something greater than either had imagined possible. A future where perfection meant having the courage to be beautifully imperfect.